Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
We don't have the six pack. There's a lot of us going through that journey of that negative self-talk. Well, maybe if I were to tell that story, that might inspire them to look at life differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things I share in the book is that I know a lot of people think that life is about becoming the better person of who you are, becoming someone that you were meant to be. But to me, it's more about unbecoming.
Mm-hmm.
Unbecoming the person that you used to be, the way that we used to think, the beliefs that we used to have. You need to unbecome that so that you can be the version that you always desire to be.
Yeah. Free yourself up, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of like the caterpillar, right? Caterpillar and the butterfly. Butterfly, it needs to unbecome the caterpillar in order to become the butterfly. And
Spread your
it's
wings.
not-
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I believe we need to unbecome in order to become the version that we dream of and that we want. And so during that process, I decided I need to put my story out. And what better way to do it in the book? And the book would also get me out to the public, talk about my stories, and hopefully on that journey, it would inspire one person at a time.
Yeah.
And that was my whole idea of why I published that book. I knew it wasn't going to be an Amazon bestseller. I knew I didn't want it to be the top of the book on the shelf. But what I wanted was that I want to inspire one person in the audience or one reader who pick up the book and read it.
Yeah. So what's the number one most important lesson you learned writing the book?
That it's not an easy process.
Mm-hmm.
It's
real work.
It's real work.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of dedication.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of determination, and it takes a lot of discipline.
Tenacity, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yep. And it
That's
takes
awesome.
a long process to actually get it done.
So when's the next book coming out?
I've been thinking about it. I think the next book is going to be something around the fact that when you start a business, it's not going to be overnight success.
Yeah.
And I know there's so much strategies that people talk about how to start a successful business, right? But people don't talk about the shadowing side, the dark side. And I think it's important to talk about the dark side. You can't have the light without the darkness.
Yeah.
And so that darkness is people don't really talk about a lot of time. We talk about the shiny objects, the six-figure coaching business, the seven-figure coaching business. You see people like, I helped my clients earn 200K last week. But how long did it take for them to actually get to that point, right? What did they have to go through? How come you're not talking about that? And I think those are the important things to talk about.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you see it every day, right?
Yeah.
You see somebody who's an overnight success. They've been in business 30 years or 35 years, right? They're an overnight success, but they've been working on this for a very, very long time, right? 3-4 decades,
Yeah.
So when you have your next book ready, we'd love to have you back on to promote it. And talk about it. So next you decide to become a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
What compelled you to do that?
So I had the book published,
Yeah.
and there I was holding the book. Now I have this new challenge, new obstacles that I had to experience. Like, how do I sell it?
Yeah.
And selling it was a big part of that journey of what I do today, which is marketing, right? Because I didn't know how to market my book. People
Right.
always come to me with their problem. Which medication do I take for my stuffy nose?
Right.
What do I do with this case? How
Right.
do
When
I
I
do
can't
with
sleep at
teething?
night, all that. Yeah.
Exactly. I never had to in my life, I never had to go out to people and say, "Hey, did you read this book? This book is great. It's going to teach you X, Y, and Z." No,
Here's
I
why.
never had
Yeah,
to do
exactly.
that.
Right. Yeah.
And now I have this book and truckload of books sitting in my truck, but
Hmm.
there's no buyer. I didn't know where to sell it.
Yeah.
And so as I was sitting there and thinking about, okay, so who need to hear about my story?
Hmm.
Who do I need to be in front of to share this message? So
Hmm.
I started to look into, well, maybe I need to be on more podcasts. Maybe I need to do some workshop. Maybe I need to go around in town and just whoever would accept me to talk about my book,
Hmm.
that's where I'm going to go. So my first speaking gig ever, it was a funny story because I had my book, so I was trying to get my message and get my story out in front of people. So I drove around town in my town for a very long time, many many days. I hit a lot of different places: women's fitness center, health health and wellness center. Finally, there was a wellness rehab center just a couple of street down from where
Hmm.
I live.
Hmm.
I stopped, walked in with my book in hand, and I remember the counter was so high, they can only barely see my head. So I peek over there, and there was a man sitting behind the counter. I said, "Excuse me, I'm a local author,
Hmm.
and do you invite speaker to come to your event?" He saw me. He came out the door, and he saw me 4 feet 4 inches tall. I have a book in my hand. I have crutches, and he said, "Come." So he took my hand, grabbed me to the back room, and "This is the lady you need to talk to. And can I
Hmm.
have the book?" So she wanted a copy of the book. So
Hmm.
sure. Yeah, I signed a copy, gave it to him. And it turns out they have regular event that they invite speakers
There
to
you
come
go.
and talk to their patient, their family member.
Hmm.
So great. That was my first speaking gig. I was able to land it just by showing up, just by walking in, just being energetic, right? And little did I know that my first audience were a group of patients struggling with dementia.
Oh, wow.
So when I delivered my speech, it was very motivational. It was my first speech ever, and I had my book set up, layout. I heard crickets.
Mm.
No one paid attention to me.
Hmm.
No one say anything, no applause at the end. And I stood there feeling awkward,
Hmm.
except that there was one family member. I
Hmm.
remember that family member was there the whole entire time. He walked up to me after the event. He said to me, "Wow, thank you. That was powerful." And that completely changed my perception about who I need to speak to.
Yeah.
And even when I became motivational speaker, I have this mindset or belief that if nobody is in the audience, my goal is to be there. I'm going to deliver my talk, deliver my speech, because there's one person in the audience who's going to come up to me and say, "Wow,
Hmm.
that was powerful."
That's cool. That's really, really, what a great story. So next, you get into podcasting or you get into coaching?
It all happened at the same time. Mike,
Okay.
I can tell you that I'm a multi-passion person. And
Yeah.
so I started the coaching. And not only did I wanted to speak by doing it in person, I needed to have a place on social
Hmm.
because social it's one of the places it came free.
Hmm.
I didn't have to take out time to be doing networking in person.
Hmm.
What I was struggling with back then when I started the business was attending these networking events. Networking is important, and
Hmm.
it's a way of building relationship, and that's how your word of mouth comes around.
Hmm.
But I was working this full time job, that job that paid the bill,
Hmm.
and so I didn't have the luxury of going around attending these networking events.
Hmm.
And so I got really strategic about where am I going to spend my energy.
Yeah.
And social media became one of my place, the go-to place as part of that marketing strategy. And in order to get noticed, you better be sure that you have stories to tell.
Hmm. I
right?
agree. Yeah.
And so what better way than starting a podcast? And I'm kind of introverted. I'm very introverted in the
Hmm.
way that I need my space and I enjoy the privacy of my home. And
Hmm.
podcasts really allow me to do that. I
Yeah.
don't have to be on video quite often unless I want to. And podcast is something that's easy. You turn on the microphone, you record your segment, and you
Hmm.
get your message out,
Right.
right? So when I started the coaching business, I needed something to share on my social.
Right.
And I quickly realized that sharing your story would be one of the way that you get your message out. So
Hmm.
I did a lot of storytelling initially on my podcast. It was all about overcoming the negative self-talk. And initially it was called Perfectly Normal
Hmm.
Podcast. Which then I pivoted later. Now the podcast has a new name. It's called Make It Visible.
Hmm.
And I think, perfectly normal has a connotation of it's normal, but then, just being normal doesn't capture or doesn't make you amazing or great, right?
Right.
You got to make it visible.
Yeah.
And so it took evolution. I think everything that we do in business or in life, it's about evolution.
Yeah.
Can you grow from where you used to be? And sometimes it's in the form of my podcast.
Yeah.
So it went from perfectly normal to make it visible now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So at some point, you make a decision to go to Machu Picchu. Did I say it right?
Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu, right?
Yeah.
What? Right? Did I read it right? 26 days?
No, 26 miles.
26 miles.
Yeah.
But
4
for
days.
days, for eight to 10 hours a day, you're climbing trails, steep trails. And you
Yes.
get to the top and you're literally crawling on your hands and knees at the top.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Talk about that for a second.
So that journey actually happened before I became a coach. So
Really? Okay.
yeah, it became the reason why I become a coach.
Okay.
I was going through a lot of personal developments and professional obstacles around that time when I decided to sign up to Machu Picchu. It was during the period where I was trying to identify who I am. I think we
Hmm.
all go through that journey of identifying issues, that
Sure.
identity issue.
Sure.
And I was going through that identity issue by the age when I was 40.
Hmm.
I woke up one day and I didn't know who I am, why I am here. And so in order to find my answer, I said to myself, well, what if for the very first time in my life, I do something that others are doing and not only do I prove to them that I'm capable of doing it, but I really prove it to myself
Right.
that I am part of this society. I belong here.
Yeah.
And so I booked myself a ticket, flew myself alone to Peru and hiked through 26 miles of Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. And
Wow.
the Inca Trail is one of those most difficult
Right.
ancient trails
Right.
that we know of to Machu Picchu. There are other trails that's easier, more flat, but Inca Trail is one of the most difficult and challenging one.
Yeah. Why take the easy one, right?
If we're gonna do it, we might as well go home and go big or go
Go
home.
big or go home. Exactly. Right. So, how many days was it that you were on the trail?
4 day total, 4 day, and we hike 8 to 10 hours per day. For
And
most
you did
people,
that with crutches and
I did that with two crutches, two pink crutches, Mike, two pink
wow.
crutches. I still have them in my trunk.
Yeah.
So every step, it was a push up for me because when you're putting pressure on crutches, you're
Mhm.
essentially doing a lot of push up. And
Right.
little did I know it was all ascending road, ascending
Mhm.
path. And so there's a lot of climbing, there's a lot of stairs. And again, I'm 4 feet 4 inches tall, and some of the steps are about the same size as I am.
Wow. Is the air thin up there?
It is very thin. So a lot of people run into pulmonary hypertension.
Yeah.
So you would have to take medication to pre-medicate yourself
Yeah.
to acclimate to the high altitude.
Uh-huh.
You get tired more easily. And so this is to say that I didn't do this. I didn't wake up one day and just say, "Oh, tomorrow I'm going to Machu Picchu," right? I did the training. I spent
Mhm.
a year going in and out of gym, work
Mhm.
with a personal trainer, get to a physical capacity where I am able to at least endure that hike
Mhm.
or endure that high altitude in order to get there. So
Right.
please don't wake up tomorrow and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Machu
Right.
Picchu." It's
Right.
about
Michelle did, right?
exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's about training and
It
getting
is.
getting you ready for
Because
that
that's
journey.
that's why people struggle, right? They just decide one day they're gonna go do it, and then they get up there and they figure out they're completely ill-equipped, they're not in shape, right? All that kind of stuff. They're not prepared. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, it's important. So you spent how long preparing to do this?
a year.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
people need to people need to put the work in, right?
People
And
need
be
to have a
prepared and
plan.
yeah.
They need to
Yeah.
have a plan. Just like anything that we do in life, it's important to walking with a plan, walking with a strategy. It's great that you have a goal that this
Right.
is what you want to do, but you need the next step is to come up with a plan,
Work
come
up
up with
to
a
it, right?
strategy. Yeah,
Yeah.
work up to it.
So, what's the single most important lesson you learned climbing for 4 days, right? And getting to that peak?
So I think there's if I were to summarize, it summarized down come down to one most important thing.
Yeah.
It's about making a choice,
Yeah.
right? And this is true for almost everything that we had just talked about today,
Mhm.
is that it comes down to making that choice.
Yeah.
Every single day you have that ability, that capacity to make a decisions that either going to move your life forward
Right.
or it's going to keep you where you are.
Yeah.
So I can spend my whole entire life thinking that I am the at the effect of
Mhm.
my circumstances,
Mhm.
or I can become someone that determine how I am going to rewrite my story next chapter.
Right. Right.
My
Exactly.
last chapter was already written, but my next chapter hasn't even begun.
Right.
So it's about making that single most important decision of what you want to do today,
Yeah.
this moment, that's going to propel you to either go forward or it's going to keep you stuck here.
Right. Wow. Wow, I love that. So you're speaking in public, you're coaching people. Talk about the coaching part for a second because
Mm,
you've written a book, right?
mhm.
You're speaking, you're a motivational speaker, you're climbing mountains. I mean, come on, right? So talk about the coaching thing for just a second.
Mhm.
Where are you in that process and how's that going?
So for a very long time, I used to work directly with clients who struggle with that negative self-talk. So I did a lot of mindset coaching, life coaching to help individuals to overcome their life challenges because that's what I was struggling with.
Right.
Recent years, especially within the last 5 years,
Hmm.
I realized that I cannot do this by
Right.
myself. I
Right.
need other coaches to step up, to speak up, so that their message get heard.
Hmm.
And so, in the recent year, I have pivoted into visibility marketing. It's about helping these coaches and entrepreneurs who also have a very important message that they would like
Hmm.
to share to be out in the public where their people, their audience can see them, can hear them, and they become the mentor, the guy that their audience need in order to overcome those mindset issues.
So
So
you're coaching coaches now.
I'm coaching coaches now.
Okay. And there's a thing that you're doing where you're teaching them marketing using storytelling. Talk about
Yes.
that for a second.
Yeah. So I think storytelling is so powerful. It makes people feel relatable.
Hmm.
It's easier to understand story. There's a saying that goes, people remember stories 22 times better than non-story.
Yeah.
And so in order to get your marketing right, marketing is about building relationship. You
Hmm.
cannot build relationship without people coming to you recognizing, resonating with you, they empathize with you, they understand what you're saying, and you understand what they're saying. It's a
Yeah.
two-way street, right? A lot of people think marketing is about, oh, promotional, it's about selling them. I got 20% off today, but people
Mhm.
don't remember 20% off. People
Right.
remember a struggling mother who's struggling with meeting the ends meet and
Mhm.
who need to feed 5 kids.
Yeah.
People remember that better than the 20% off.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
Totally agree.
you as a business owner, as doing the marketing, you need to come off and being able to empathize the people that you're
Mhm.
serving. And so what better way to do it than
Yeah.
storytelling about yourself, your journey, what you had to struggle, so that your story actually make people feel relatable. If
Yeah.
they can't relate to you, they're not going to buy from you.
No, I totally agree. And people, when you tell people stories, they have a thing that we call a state change,
Yeah.
right? And Maya Angelou talks about this all the time. People will forget what you did for a living. They'll forget what you're offering them, that kind of thing, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
The power of storytelling, right?
Yep.
So, so if somebody is listening to this and they're thinking about writing a book, they need coaching, they're thinking about they're trying to market, they're trying to get the word out, they're
Mhm.
trying to increase their visibility, and they want to use storytelling. They want to learn from you about how to use storytelling for marketing.
Mhm.
How can people get in touch with you?
The best place to find me is through my website, elevatelifecoaching.org.
So
Uh,
elevatelifecoaching.org.
mhm.
Okay.
I am very, very active on Facebook. So if they go to Coach Michelle Kuei, they'll be able to friend request me, and I would love to get to know you and see what we can partner together.
Spell Quay for me.
Kuei.
Okay. So it's Coach Michelle with two L's,
Mhm.
Quay.
Yes.
So it's at Coach Michelle Quay. Okay, gotcha. On
Yeah.
Facebook.
On Facebook.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I think the one last thing I will leave the audience is, no matter where you are in your life or in your business, I think it's most important not to lose hope.
Yeah.
It's very easy to give in to the challenges, to the obstacles that we're experiencing at this moment,
Hmm.
but you have to hold on to the hope.
Yeah.
And the point is, if Michelle can do it, I hope it's not just lighting up the fire inside of you. It's
Hmm.
actually lighting up the torch
Yeah.
inside of you that you will want to do something differently.
Yeah.
Don't do better, just do something differently.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have something that we can add, right? We all have something that we can add to the world and value we can bring and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And really it comes down to being committed and dedicated enough to go do it.
Yeah.
Coach Michelle, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun and
It,
probably the fastest hour I've ever lived in my life.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.